Hello everyone, welcome into Above My Pay Grade. My name is Eric. Thanks for tuning in. If you could, hit that like button for me, hit subscribe. Let's get right into it. A historic day today, very historic. Russia has cut off flow of natural gas to Europe. Now, what does this mean? A lot of people look at this gas problem, including myself. I have to read about it and figure out what's going on, because I think to myself, if Russia just says no more gas from us, they can just get it from somebody else. Keeping in mind, Russia is pumping in gas through a pipeline. So it would be similar, not exactly the same, but it would be similar to water flows getting cut off to a neighborhood. Could they go to the nearest water source, a pond or a river, fill up their containers and water their lawn and get drinking water? Yes. And same thing with Europe. They can go other places and get it shipped to Europe, but they need the flow of gas for the demand they have. They need it through a pipeline. The only pipeline they got is from Russia, unfortunately. So Russia cutting it off, there are other sources, but it's not nearly enough. It's not nearly enough, just like that neighborhood. It's not nearly enough water for the demand. So this is a huge deal, absolutely massive. I'm reading from an article here on Zero Hedge. It says Russian gas export monopoly Gazprom has declared force majeure. I had to look that up. I don't speak whatever language that is. I think it's French. But it basically says in the contract that Gazprom signed with Europe, it says, hey, if there's circumstances outside our control where we can't get you gas, that doesn't void our contract. That's called force majeure. So it says the force majeure measure in a clause invoked by the business was hit with something beyond its control and is affected from deliveries starting June 14th. So this is until further notice. Gazprom is not sending gas to Europe, and I cannot overstate enough what a big deal this is. Just imagine if overnight, no more gas in the United States. And the logistical challenges of getting enough gas to run the economy, it's impossible. So the economy cannot run at the pace that it was without this gas, and the gas has been turned off. That is what's happening right now. And GDP, if you were wondering, is very much tied to energy consumption. So a country that consumes more energy normally has a higher GDP because energy is life. So this is an absolutely massive deal. Unfortunately, there's all kinds of consequences to this. They're saying here in this article, this would reduce corporate earnings by 15% because they can't put out product at the same pace. The market sell-off would exceed 20% in the stock 600 euros, so that's kind of like our S&P 500, would drop by 90 cents. The rush to safe assets would drive benchmark German bond yields to zero, they wrote. Remember what we talked about bonds? When people run to something like a bond and there's high demand, yield goes down. This is that's all financial speak. But what that means is when the system's not running, people run to safety. And then on top of that, stress, civil unrest, you guys have probably all heard if the power goes out, the crime goes up. There's a reason for that. This is some scary stuff, unfortunately. So one of the, what is it called? The International Energy Agency. There's out of Paris. They gave a 10-point plan to reduce European Union's reliance on Russian natural gas. I'm going to run you through this 10-point plan real quick. But if all of these are implemented, all of these 10 points in this plan, it only, even by their standards, it only reduces the reliance on Russian gas by a third. And right now, Russia cut off 100%. So all of these measures are supposed to reduce their reliance on Russian gas by 1/3. And now their reliance on Russian gas is zero, goose egg. Scary stuff. But here's their 10-point plan. No new gas supply contracts with Russia. Replace Russian supplies with gas with alternative sources. And we talked about that. There is a flow of gas coming in from Russia. And if they're going to replace it with alternative sources, they have to get that shipped in. So it's just like that water analogy. Yes, you can replace it, but it doesn't really meet the demand. Introduce minimum gas storage obligation to enhance market resilience. That's kind of like our reserve that Biden's been selling to Europe and China. Accelerate the deployment of new wind and solar projects. That is, that's one of the most frustrating things, is that virtue signaling. But if you look into where the supply, number one, comes from wind and solar, number one, it cannot replace nat gas right now. I've said this a million times. It doesn't produce as much power as nat gas. And so if it was cheaper and better, people would have already gone to it. On top of the fact they're making the same mistake. All their suppliers that help with those windmills, that build those windmills, the natural materials, and the solar panels, are China and Russia. So it's the same it's the same problem. And it's just virtue signaling at its finest. Maximize generation from existing dispatchable low-emission sources, bioenergy, and nuclear. As we all know, a lot of Europe, because of virtue signaling, shut down nuclear power plants. This is real sad stuff. Chickens coming home to roost on the most stupid measures, unfortunately. Enact short-term measures to shelter vulnerable electricity consumers from high prices. That sounds like price controls. That doesn't work. Or, like in California's case, giving them money to buy the fuel doesn't lower the price. Giving them a stimmy check to buy the fuel. Speed up the replacement of gas boilers and heat pumps. That's number 7. Accelerate energy efficient improvements in buildings and industry. Okay, all of this takes time. This is not something you can be like, oh no, Russia turned off our gas. We need energy efficient windows. No, this is something that takes decades. Encourage temporary thermostat adjustment by consumers. That's number 9. Wow. Okay. Understand that energy consumption is life. Energy consumption is life. I'll put it in these basic terms. If you don't have air conditioning and it's 100 degrees outside, a lot of people die. If you don't have heat and it's below 0 outside, a lot of people die, because you need to consume energy in order to heat your house. You need to consume energy in order to have air conditioning. Everyone watching this is probably like, yeah, duh. Who didn't know that? European politicians didn't know that. Or at least they don't think that way, unfortunately. Number 10, step up efforts to diversify and decarbonize sources of power system flexibility. I said this in a video the other day. You have to play the cards you're dealt. You cannot have wishful thinking and bluff your way through this game. And unfortunately, Europe tried to bluff Russia, and Russia says no more gas. And Europe doesn't have any cards to play here. They just don't. They don't have alternatives that meet the demand. They have going back to wood burning stoves. That's what they have. And all of these measures take decades to employ to make a real big difference. And of that difference, this organization just says that would only reduce their demand for Russian oil by 1/3. So it's like, what are we doing here? These mistakes have been made over a decade, multiple decades, unfortunately. And again, unfortunately, the pain that these people are going to have to go through, and America's going to feel it too. The undoing of these energy policies is going to take decades as well. In the meantime, watch what happens in Europe, because this is a recipe for civil unrest. which is sad. Very, very sad. Same thing would happen here in America if they cut the gas off overnight. Let me know what you think about what's going on in Europe. Yeah, this can happen here too, just so you know. I mean, not that it could shut off, but as demand increases in Europe, we have already seen where a lot of our nat gas is going from the States. It's going over there. So if we're the only supplier, that lowers the supply here in the United States, drives the price up. Yeah, sad stuff. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Kind of depressing video today, but that's the news. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.